Hello, my friends. Everyone can see they don't really care anymore. Out in the open is where they now operate. It's because no one can stop the madness. It's like a freight train. Anybody that complains, it's just merely a puff of hot air. And the old gods from before the flood, well, they are now back to stay till the end. And that's why we are seeing all the alien stuff in entertainment, just nothing but aliens and, this, for some reason, a morbid sensation for, just evil, right? And I'm not understanding that one. What happened to the good movies, But the elite circles, why do they do rituals to these old gods from the time before? And the entire world's governments, why are they in on this scam? We're finding out a lot lately on what's really happening around us. And if you don't know what's going on, you better go look for yourself and don't just listen to people. Go to the National Archives and sit there in front of your computer, your laptop, whatever. Go to a library and look them up. You use, if you're scared to use your own stuff, but don't worry, I do it all the time. I mean, it's public information. Go read through those documents and, it'll explain to you what they're actually doing. And I'll have a few of these just up there. And what you would do is just maybe pause it and read it for yourself. To go over that is too much, but I figured I'd show you all the archives and the files that I got. And it's only, maybe 30 or 40 of the thousands upon thousands, but they're in there. And you just got to read through them. But this info is public, and I really do recommend you not listening to even me. But after you watch this video and you think maybe you want to look into it more, I recommend doing that because it tells a lot. No one has to tell you that this document is legit or whatever. You just read it for what it is, okay? Understand where it comes from. They're going to tell you. It'll be the Department of Navy, Air Force, NASA, whoever it might be, the FBI, CIA, whoever it is doing it. And they're going to tell you what they found out. It's kind of strange that they do that, but they're going to. And so I'm going to tell you a story. Because, see, I want these aliens and their friends and their ancient religious practices to be known and understood, and how they've been passed down, and what we need to know from our own ancient texts about this matter. And which, by the way, the texts that I'm going to quote from are not from people who sacrificed to demons and shit and, mingled with dark forces. That's insanity, y'all. And there's a few things I'm going to point out to explain to you what is really going on. The number one most important thing I need to say, it is blatantly in your face, okay? You just have to wake up from the matrix to see it. So King Solomon was known for summoning demons, right? Then sealing and locking them away. Now it's written he sent a boy who was protected by an object that had God's name on it. And he traveled to Arabia by himself and caught a jinn for the king. And because these people were so amazed that this kid did it, it was recorded and remembered. And the king of Arabia actually sent King Solomon thanks and praises that he was just, the greatest thing in the world. Well, that's where you get a genie in a bottle. That's the story. Like the story in particular that he told in King Solomon's testimony. And you can look this up it's King Solomon's testimony. And he tells about midway when he's locking away these elementals. What he's doing, he's building a temple. And he's building a temple to the Most High God, right? And of course, the story is he ends up playing with these things and love and, his affection for a woman and for a beautiful woman, right? It turns him against it and he ruins his whole life, right? But basically, he starts to worship these things. And that's where Solomon's downfall is. And that's why the Testament of Solomon, he tells you in the end, this is a warning to you, right? And King Solomon's warning is his testimony. And even in the end, he like specifically says, this is not to play with. Well, I'll tell you what happened. He was locking these spirits away while he was summoning them, and the more evil or whatever they were, he would just lock them up immediately. Well, one of them is locking away these elemental spirits that's not of this world, and they were interdimensional, etheric spirit beings who were somehow present on this plane, but manifested, physically in front of all his council and staff too, not just him. And a funny thing that I thought that was said by these entities when they were summoned is the cryptic thing that these things said to him. They told Solomon this. They said, men will find us one day and free us from these bonds that you now put us in, laughing and mocking him, right? Now, it's said so matter of fact in this book. I thought, what a crazy thing to claim. And Solomon, y'all, had no reason to be insane, no reason to be crazy. Right? He was very smart. Everyone loved him. All the people loved him, and he was rich beyond all belief at this time. He did not need to, write down some fantastical crap because everything he did was fantastic. Right? Now, how these beings are somehow everywhere is beside me, right? But before the flood, we have to consider they were here or the people were just pathetic. Like academia says, they're pathetic, right? This doesn't happen. Now, I'm sure that's not the case. See, I claim these were physical entities being seen, dimensional beings. And it was not just Solomon or the high priest that saw this, but everyone in attendance at when these things happened before the flood were allegedly there. It was seen, right? And the further back we go, the wilder it gets. So I tried to understand some of what Ezekiel and Enoch and all the other people who were actually witnessing and seeing. Now, some people see these things in dreams, okay? Now, a vision or what have you is different, all right? That's different. I'm talking about like everyday life, okay? What was going on, right? I want to know what was real, okay? What was physical. So I watched these other videos and I couldn't see clearly enough to make this rational decision, and I saw where everybody was getting confused at. And, well, where you have 100% proof of what's going on. So I went back and looked at these original stories, to the ones that we quote from the so-called tablets of the Babylonians, Mesopotamians, right? And there I saw how we got this problem. And you probably don't even realize this, that all the stories, like the ones of Ezekiel, Daniel, Zeus, empires like the Assyrians, the Samaritans, Persians, Greeks, Romans, you name it. We are told them all. You just are not aware, right? But I saw they're all the same, y'all. Just the names and subtle things are different, but not much. The story itself is almost exactly the same. Someone just flips the good guys with the bad guys, opposite of the original. And in some cases, on some of these tablets, it's like no one remembered the names in the stories, so they made them up. Or, in their own tongues, it was what they called them, okay? I found that too. Even putting their ancestors' name in, right, just to make them look important or something. Maybe that was done to be declared the bloodline or inheritance to a throne or a kingship or something like that. Who knows? I don't know what their motive was, but, it's clear. And as I read them all, I saw that pattern again where the original story or what was said is completely different and mostly warped and twisted from the truth that we're given, like in modern academia and in our books. Like science gets done, right? They repeat like something that's not even what the scientists said. As I said, good is bad, bad is good. And when it appears to be strictly occult practices before the flood that appears all of a sudden, like back when strange beings walked with men, well, every story has the same amount of characters, each with a bad guy, beginning, destruction, savior to man, gods, half men, gods, all of that. But most of all, they all have the claiming of power over the air and spirits and demons, and dominion over them and all men. That's one of the things that pops up too a lot. Like the Assyrians, they were the first to pull a scam off on their people with a simple calendar. Like these clowns held back knowledge and acted like they knew time and like God was talking to them, right? And they did have knowledge, right? They had a calendar. And, they got all these people to worship Moloch, right? Because they were like, oh, Moloch said this and that. Well, everyone around the Assyrians, hated them. So each empire that came in with this God, false God worship, everyone in the world hated them because, they say, oh, they ruled over all men. No, they didn't. Okay. They may have thought they ruled over them. They were there, for, I guess, oppression, right? Would they kill you? Yes. But, did everyone worship Moloch? No, just them. And that's what got passed down. And so basically, they hated these people for the human sacrifice they did because nobody buys that, right? I mean, that's a total way to make everyone, freak out. But each great time of each empire, the story stayed the exact same. It's just different names. The stories get flipped or reversed roles. But all of it is from apparently Ham and his three sons. The same dirty tricks as always from the beginning. And after the flood is where you get it all back. The same old god or gods or false gods.
Or Satan worshiper.
Now, Babylon, Nimrod, Gilgamesh, the Nephilim, Rephaim, however you want to say it, Tower of Babel, Masons, all right, the same people, Hillary Clinton and them wanted to know where these tombs are and so on, right? The same. Now, our timeline is influenced heavily by them, right? Now, the Assyrians started it after the flood with Sumer and Akkad, right? And that's probably where we get summer, right? The sun. The Egyptians had Ra and Osiris, right? The sun god, the eye, the sun disk. The Babylonians had Utu and Shamash. The Persians had Mithra. The Greeks had Helios. And the Romans had, was that Sol Invictus. All of them beings of light, all of them from a different dimension or plane of existence, right? Just interdimensional beings, you could say. But plain and simple as can be, it is merely sun god worship. Whether the beings are real or made up, okay? Like our statue of Sol Invictus, the sun god in America. Imagine that. All complete with the broken chain there from the bottomless pit, still visible. Same face too from the summoning his demons there, Satan. That picture there, yeah. So, as the years after the flood went by, these things or secrets supposedly were taught to many men once more, like Nimrod's Masons, the clown show. Except now it was just completely a mess. The truth as we know it are the words of the God Most High. But there were two stories now after the flood. The one, and then the one that was responsible for the flood coming, the fake one, right? Now, as each generation or empire came and went, I think I said that backwards, but y'all get what I'm saying. You know the words. All right, so it seemed like a story had to be remembered or found. And although no one apparently knew exactly, it was close enough that the same sun god kept coming back time after time. Now, that's not a coincidence. It's exactly what was going on before the flood all the way to today. It's not like they changed gods or anything, okay? Now, these beings that they worshipped were once in physical form, but now they reside on the other side or upside down world or the realm of spirits, whatever you want to call it. And the old gods had taught men to summon or conjure spirits, right, or open portals in the original story told before the flood. And the knowledge somehow through the years ended up in Nimrod's hands. But, whose words were they, okay? Now, we got a bunch of stories that tell where these stones came from, right? All those Mesopotamian stones, all this stuff. This is where they took the so-called knowledge from. Now, in Jasher, it's not a biblical book, but I just want you to hear these words. Now, it says it's written like in the Second Temple time. Names and events are slightly construed, right, a little bit, but it's going to tell you a lot. And here it is. And Canaan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise and had knowledge and skill in all wisdom. He reigned over all the sons of men, and he led the sons of men to wisdom and knowledge, for Canaan was a very wise man and had the understanding in all wisdom. And with his wisdom he ruled over spirits and demons. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that God would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon the earth, and that the Lord would in the latter days bring upon them the waters of the flood. And in those days, here it is, Cain wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in the time to come, and he put them in his treasures. First of all, that was written by a child or somebody who was stupid. because there's so many wisdoms in there, and then the wisdom he had was over spirits and demons. You get what I'm saying? What was on these tablets was not God, or it wasn't our God. You know, it's in fact his words that are carved on stones that are so sought after. Him, the Mesopotamian gods, the Assyrians, the Greeks, all of them, they wanted these stones so that they could see what it was, because that's how they preserved them. They knew a flood was coming, so they knew, well, what do we do? Well, let's put it on stone. Now, I think they found all this stuff, or they found most of them. But do you think these words are truth? Think about that. See, they love to summon stuff and play with spirits and demons, Dungeons and Dragons dudes, right? And with these men worshiping the fallen Nephilim as they did, they knew that humans would do just exactly as asked. And when their fleshly vessels were destroyed, a good summoning is what you would need the sons of men to know how to do, right? And so they taught them that, and they recorded it. Now, to understand this clown show, I had to know, what did our grandfathers say? Not Nimrod or Gilgamesh or Manetho. And by the way, Manetho is where they get the entire story from, that's in every classroom textbook in history of our secret societies and everyone that they've embraced since Ham's day. Merely sun god, the morning star, Baal, Lucifer, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. Now, where did Manetho get it all from? Because that's where we got it from, is Manetho. See, they don't tell you this part. It's kind of funny. He got it from the high priest and scribe named Thoth, King Og's buddy, right? The illiterate, who in turn got it from the fallen angels, because they worship the parents of the Rephaim, or the giants. They worship them, the Baals of the sun, moon, and stars, the fallen angels, if you like. And that shouldn't shock you. You had to already know that they've had some sort of guidance, albeit the wrong one, but who better than the spirits themselves? And it's not like they don't tell you. If you go and look at it, you see exactly what they're doing. We have a giant statue in the United States telling you it is a fallen angel with the chains broken off of them, and it's it's a sun god, right? Oh God! So the way the government's enacted and ran, the rules, their religion, it's just infiltrated all parts of society. And anything that they touch has to include their ancestors and their gods, right? Look at what they do. Every single thing NASA has is. Now, I'm telling you right now, they're going to pay a price for that. And I can't understand why a human would doom themselves. It is beside me as a man. I have no idea why they're doing it, but they are doing it. So I'm going to read you a couple things from our grandfathers. And I'll put the verses or any kind of information you need where you can look it up for yourselves. And this is this is what we get left to us to understand what's happening around you and what's going to happen to them. When Enoch saw something that was so horrible, he asked the angel, oh my God, what is this horrible place? And Ariel said to me, here stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind, and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. Here shall they stand till the day of the great judgment, in which they shall be judged, till they are made an end of. And the woman also of the women of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. And I, Enoch, alone saw the vision, the ends of all things, and no man shall see as I have seen. Now, the many forms he's talking about, y'all, we actually see in history books and, all the temples, all the religions that men made up. All sorts of weird, God, beasts, whatever, demons. Now, they're copying what once had taken place on this earth, what walked this earth before the flood, because they were in all different kinds of forms, it says, and they were going to lead astray to sacrificing to demons as gods. What did they do? The first thing that everyone does, even today, it's all about blood and sacrificing and just insanity. And at one time, when they were real flesh and blood, they knew that it would come a time that, well, if they didn't do something or leave things or, kind of keep passing it down, that, it's understandable how confusing it may get to all of us, but this is all by design. And, well, all the stories in the religions, right? They're of their descent, a recreation or flipping of the original story in their story. It's his story, twisted, fed to weak-minded humans by like making them summon spirits and shit, so that they can live on this plane again, right? Now it's mixed up so bad right now. What seems to be like harmless activities that we saw that our ancestors, were doing, the ancestral rituals, I guess you would say, they're actually before the flood as well. Take, for instance, the old tribes. Now, I'm not going to pick on any certain one, but all over the world, you notice they all paint their faces. They all wear headdresses, whether they be feathered headdresses, whatever. And it's always the spirit world, right? Spirits and demons. Now, I recently found my hero, y'all. Now, I don't know how he hid from me this long. I guess, that's just YouTube, right? Conspiracy or Us, he made a video series called The Nephilim Look Like Clowns. He was after my own heart, right? Now, look, it's worth checking out to see what he has to say, because apparently the fallen angels, like, either they looked crazy or they painted themselves crazy. All right, I don't know. But I guess they look like clowns. I mean, who would have guessed, right? And they wore colored clothes and, hats of feathers. But I'm saying probably from the great beasts and stuff that, they were made. They made this stuff like the dinosaurs, like creatures that walk the earth, right? That's why they had weird stuff on. But check this out. All right, from the this will be from the book of Cain of Ur, and now don't quote me on this, but I believe this is Lilith. Is going to be Cain's wife. But she spawned monster serpents, sharp of tooth and merciless in fang. With poison instead of blood, she filled their bodies. Fierce monster vipers she clothed with terror. With a splendor she decked them, and made them of lofty stature. She set up monsters and dragons, and the monster named Lemu. Now we see the bones of these monsters they speak of, and they're everywhere. But someone said, that's a dinosaur. You see what I mean? I mean, in your face. Oh, and the blood being poison. All right. Now, if you read that book Solomon I was telling you about, the testimony of Solomon, he's going to tell this being to fetch him the worm or the dragon, whose blood was acid to etch the stone with. Now, even in ancient Asian elixirs and medicines and alchemy, one added ingredient is always a certain kind of what? Dragon's blood. And Lemu, right? Remember Aleister Crowley? He called that entity he summoned Lamu or something like that. Same thing. Just spell a little different. Now, Nimrod also has an account of total strangeness too, where he's at war, like with King Og and the Rephaim, like the Book of the Giants, or Og, the Book of King Og, the Giant War. Well, remember Enlil, Enki, and all the other Sumerian alleged gods are the, right? Those are the flip-flop, y'all. All right, of Cain, Lamech, Noah, Ham, Enoch, the Most High, Lucifer, and so on. A copy, a fraud, as you will, right? So let's just see it like it is. So apparently Noah is still on Mount Ararat, or in the vicinity of it, and Nimrod is sending messages back and forth to him on these stone tablets. That's why they're everywhere. And it is where we get the famous stone tablets of Assyria, Mesopotamia, Babylon, right? Gilgamesh, right? The whole thing. Right? They all did it. Every empire. Nimrods nor any other were taken serious at their time, except for right there where they were at. It was a cult doctrine. It wasn't biblical. It was scribed letters to Unapishtu, Utu, Enki, Enlil, Gilgamesh. All those names, the same people. Remember, if you read it, it's the same people. Well, on this particular passage, Nimrod is pretty pissed off, and he accounts that on Mount Ararat, Noah is well fortified with thorns and everything around it in this mountain. It says he sends great scaled beasts or dragons to meet the armies of the Rephaim and proceed to kill and eat Nimrod's men. Now, how strange is that? No wonder this stuff's all hidden from us. The world is far from what we were told, is it not? And if you're going to quote these things and use them to summon demons and spirits with, well, then I want to see what else he has to say. Kind of like the Rephaim proceed to kill, these dragons eat the Rephaim and kill Nimrod's men. I mean, come on, y'all. And if you're wondering, where's these proofs at? Do we have any proof lately, that like, Waldo's over here talking about dragons and stuff? Well, in the book Historia Animalia, it claims in the 1500s, dragons are still alive and can be found, but not as common anymore as before. So they still saw these things. Like on the maps, they're there. The stories that Ptolemy and other historians tell you, dragons were normal, they're there. So you see these lies of these controllers, right? how these things just, these places and events would affect their rule over men. And it's not make believe like NASA. Okay, go back when it's harder to pull off being, just an idiot, right? To try to dominate over a group of people. They knew that men rejected this serpent and this serpent seed and this bloodline of the people who tried to assume the kingly seed. Okay, now there are real ones, but the majority just rejected it, and it was because the world was not being able to held down like with this type of knowledge, because most men knew about the two different realms. It's funny how that works, isn't it? Back then, they seem to have been so much smarter than we are. Now, I know some of you do not believe, and it's okay. I do not claim that all the words that come out of my mouth are truth and you should listen to them. And especially when I repeat the scum of the earth's words, like King Og or Thoth or anyone, trust me, I'm aware of the source when I read it, right? Cain, Nimrod, whatever. But it's always good to see what the other stories say, because there may be truth mixed in there, right? And maybe not with any worries on who may be upset when they wrote it. You may be able to find out different things. And, well, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Well, like Sir Isaac Newton, let's just pop on ahead through time, right? Even Sir Isaac Newton knew the truth. Now we quote him, the father of gravity. Everyone knows the stories, right? But guess what he said? He left some clear words of wisdom here. He says, about the time of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition. Well, isn't that a coincidence? So how these people all know this, right? How they know the future like that? What would happen? And how's it all hidden and corrupted like it is? Like someone didn't want us to be aware or know the world around us, and it's all like a script too. Strange and nefarious of a script it is, but it's still a script nonetheless from a long time ago, and it's just keep on going. And it's not a coincidence, right? It's like people say it's a coincidence, or you can't travel to certain areas of the world. That's not a coincidence, right? I just kind of believe if you open your eyes, right, you'll see. But enough bad. Everybody knows what's going on. And if you don't know by now, please go look, because you are in the matrix. You better wake up and look around you and prepare yourself, okay? Um, Spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, right? Whatever you need to do, because the truth is far more powerful, okay? And speaking of powerful, the truth I'm going to tell you is so powerful right now. When it's read into the ether, it's good, y'all. Now, I'll post the scriptures up there so you guys can look at them. So remember this. Fear not, ye souls of the righteous, but wait patiently and hope for the day of your death in righteousness. Grieve not, because your souls descend in great trouble, with groaning, lamentation, and sorrow to the receptacle of the dead. In your lifetime, your bodies have not received a recompense in proportion to your goodness, but the period of your existence have sinners existed, in the period of execution and of punishment. But now I swear to you, ye righteous, by the splendor and his glory, by illustrious kingdom, and by his majesty, to you I swear, that I comprehend this mystery, that I have read the tablet of heaven, and have seen the writing of the holy ones, and have discovered what is written and impressed on it concerning you. I swear to you, you righteous, that in heaven the angels record your goodness before the glory of the Mighty One. A funny thing I found, y'all, was this passage where Enoch leaves us a message, right? He leaves me and you a message, that he points out how funny it's going to be in the future, and for us to look back and see for ourselves. And I did, and it's funny how it never got changed. And it says, now I will point out a mystery. Many sinners shall turn and transgress against these words of uprightness. They shall speak evil things, they shall utter falsehood, execute great undertakings, and compose books in their own words. But when they shall write all my words correctly in their own languages, they shall neither change nor diminish them, but shall write them down all correctly, all which from the first I have uttered concerning them. Yeah. Another mystery also I point out: to the righteous and the wise shall be given books of joy, of integrity, and of great wisdom. To them shall books be given, in which they shall believe, and in which they shall rejoice, and all the righteous shall be rewarded, who from these shall acquire knowledge of every upright path. And he goes on to say, and I will leave a righteous man from your tribe, together with all his house, who will act in accordance with my will. And from his seed another generation will arise, the last of many, but even out of those the majority will be very insatiable. And I shall rise up for that generation someone who will reveal to them the books in your handwriting and those of your fathers. And he will have to point out to them the guard tower of the earth, truthful men, and those who carry out my will, who do not invoke my name invalidly. And you will tell that generation, and they, when they have read them, will be more glorified in the end than in the beginning. Now, how true is that, folks? That's truth. This is the light straight from God, not from a Babylonian high priest of Baal or Thoth or Gilgamesh or Enkidu. You know how we feel like we're nothing? Like that's how they make everybody feel. You come from monkeys, like the pharaohs called us monkeys, y'all. I'm telling you, that's where they get it from. And people are continuously suffering, and I see it every day, right? But you have to remember, okay, he told you some things because a lot of people don't want to point out the good stuff. Well, listen to this. To those who from the period of their birth have not been covetous of earthly riches, but have regarded themselves as a breath passing away. Such has been their conduct, and much has the Lord tried them, and their spirits have been found pure, that they may bless his name. All their blessings have I related in a book, and he has rewarded them, for they have been found to love heaven with an everlasting aspiration. God has said, while they have been trodden down by the wicked men, they have heard from them the revealings and the blasphemies, and have been unfairly treated while they were blessing me. And now I will call the spirits of good from the generation of light, and will change those who have been born in darkness, who have not in their bodies been recompensed with glory as their faith have merited. I will bring them into splendid light of those who love my holy name, and I place each of them on a throne of glory peculiarly his own, and they shall be at rest during innumerable periods. Righteous is the judgment of the God Most High. Now, with all that I've just entered into your mind, remember it. Read the good books for yourself, and do not be deceived by wicked men out for their riches and glory on this stupid earth, right? Because right now it's futile to do that. Okay, we see the books and the gods that they read and worship, and you have to know that they are frauds. Only the Most High is the true God, and his Son is our King forever. So what do we need to do? I'd say do what Enoch and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did, what Jesus told us to do. Be no part of this world and shine bright in darkness. And I swear to you, you will be seen and remembered. I love you all. I'm Wild Dog, and I am out of here.